On your Monday episode of Locked On Raptors, stop me if you've heard this in the last week. The Raptors lose a tight game, but Immanuel Quickley rocks. We'll dig into that, Chris Boucher's return to the fold, and so much more on today's show. Thanks for hanging.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Monday, March the 11th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 10 seasons on various platforms. You can follow my work over on the Hell website at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors, and of course, you can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server, basically the opposite of the Hell website. It's a great, nice, pleasant place to come talk about your Toronto Raptors and their, many losses and whatnot. It's a good time. Draft stuff going on in there, food talk, movies, and everything you could want to talk about with people on the internet in a nice, friendly, non-toxic environment. What better sales pitch can I give you than that for the Discord? Link in the description. Come hang out. Of course, you can listen to the show. Find it on your favorite podcast apps. Subscribe, follow, rate, review for free. Wherever you get your podcast, it's much appreciated when you support the show. However you support the show. We are also on YouTube. You can go subscribe to the Locked On Raptors YouTube channel. Hit the little notification bell. When you do that, you're going to get a heads up via push notification to your device that the podcast is going live whenever it does. So go ahead and do that and never miss an episode. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada, and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out at nissanusa.com. All right, let's get rolling here. Coming off of a Toronto Raptors 128-118 overtime loss to the juggernaut Portland Trail Blazers, led by Delano Banton and a bunch of other guys. DeAndre Ayton, pulling out one of his 10 good games a year against the Raptors as well. We're going to dig into our big takeaways from this game. We'll talk about Chris Boucher having himself a night. We'll talk about, the good, the bad, all that good stuff, plus a very important video review, which we will examine at the end of the show. But let's kick it off by bringing in our guest, Big V, Vivek Jacob from Sportsnet, Raptors in 7, Cricket Canada. Big V, how the hell are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. Ready to get into this game. Ready to talk more Raptors as we wind down into pretty much the final month here. And,
Thank God. Look, there's stuff to talk about. There's exciting stuff even to talk about with the Raptors right now, but also it feels pretty pre-scripted. They are going to lose most of these games down the stretch. They just don't got the juice without Scotty Barnes, without Jakob Poeltl. It's a tough scene. However, there are some bright spots to nurture us and make us feel okay until the playoffs kick in and basketball gets real again. Let's start, I guess, with the guy we've started with in recent episodes because he is the best show in town right now. It's Immanuel Quickley. Pretty quiet first half against the Blazers on Saturday night, but finishes the game 29, 3 and 7, 10 of 21 from the field, 4 of 10 from deep. He's hitting his twos now. Quickley has been easily the best part of this stretch of Raptors basketball. No, Big V, what have you enjoyed about the Immanuel Quickley experience other than all of it? You can get more specific and granular if you'd like, or you can just gesture broadly and say, wow, he's awesome. Dealer's choice. Go ahead.
Wow, he's awesome. No.
Yes.
Honestly, the biggest thing that stands out to me, we can get into his three-point shooting. Obviously, his pull-up threes before the break were down around 30%. It's pretty much at 50% since the break. Yeah. His decision-making, the balance, the thing he's talked about is, balancing his own aggression with when to find his teammates. And I think getting into that mode of where he's thinking scorer first is actually complicating things for defenses because they have to be that much more focused on him. And that's opening up passing lanes and that's making things easier for his teammates. And it's like, oh, okay, I don't have a shot here. It's crystal clear. I got to find a teammate, right? And it's like the second there's a sliver of daylight, the shot is going up, right? There's so much, you can see the intent, right? Like whether it's a screen and roll action or if he's, pushing the ball down the floor and the defender is sagging off, it's like, yeah, I'm pulling up right here. And so I think that has simplified his decision making. And then the thing that really stands out to me, and you could see it over the course of this game, is his competitive spirit, right?
Oh, yeah.
They lose the game to the Suns, and Michael Grange asks him, "Hey, you got 18 assists tonight. Is the next goal to get to 20 assists?" And he's like, "Hey, man, the next goal is to win." Right. And you could see that he really wanted to try and get this win. Didn't happen, but in different moments, you could just see the competitive spirit. He got super pumped after that one pull-up three. There was a play where there was some miscommunication. I think DeAndre Ayton ended up getting a dunk inside, and you could see Quickley just like pound the basketball, and then he seemed pretty vocal with his teammates about what went wrong there. And I think those are the little things where in this stretch where I think you are, beyond like some of the growth stuff on court in terms of players just improving, you are looking for that leadership in this new era of the Raptors.
100%. He seems like very much that kind of dude for this team. And it's just been a treat to watch him kind of round into form as a player, as a lead guard, as a leader over the last 9 games or so. Look, the results have not been there. They've been bad in this time, obviously, but we know the team is super depleted. The team is not what it's intended to be. And, I think the biggest single thing the Raptors can gain out of this backstretch of the season is Immanuel Quickley kind of building himself up to a level where he's ready to go as the clear number 2 with Scotty Barnes to start next season. And it's looking like that's very much on the table. And hey, as you're talking, like if you're talking about like offensive engines, there's a world in which Immanuel Quickley just becomes the offensive engine for this team. The way he's playing of late, he's doing offensive engine things. Last 9 games, Big V, 22, 6, and 8 on 49% on twos. That's big. He was really struggling from 2-point range. That's coming around. You see he's got more control on those floaters. He's finishing through contact more effectively, getting to the line a little more often. Or you'd like to see a little bit of an uptick there. I think just 3.2 attempts in those 9 games. So a bit of an uptick there would be a nice bit of improvement for the rest of the season. Just 2.6 turnovers to those 8 assists per game. 59.8% true shooting as the clear number 1 option on this team right now. Obviously, Scotty Barnes played some of these 9 games, but IQ has been the focus of the defense's attention for much of these games and is putting up 22 on very efficient shooting and a pretty modest like 23.1% usage rate. He's obviously setting dudes up and setting the table extremely well. In the NBA over the last 9 games, he is 9th, Big V, in potential assists. Guys in that range of potential assists, the top of the league: Nikola Jokic, Tyrese Halliburton, Trae Young, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, Tyus Jones for some reason, Fred VanVleet, DeJounte Murray. Those are the guys in the company that Immanuel Quickley is keeping as an offensive engine right now. It's pretty exciting stuff. It's probably too early to start dreaming on like what like the ceiling can be for Quickley, but I'm curious, like, where are you at with that? How are you sort of looking at Quickley now and long term as far as like where he can slot into the hierarchy of this team and what his ultimate sort of end game can be as a player? Because he's doing stuff that is like all-star stuff right now. It's pretty exciting to watch.
Yeah, when the simplest way I'll put it is this: when people have kind of made the Tyrese Maxey comparison, I've differentiated them, saying that I think Maxey has like a fringe superstar ceiling, and I think Quickley is more in that all-star ceiling. And I think the biggest difference between the two, I would say, is their ability to finish at the rim.
Sure.
At least the way it's played out to this point in their respective careers. And so I think if Quickley once they get into that sort of stratosphere, that's the biggest thing that is going to have to change with him. I think we've seen some really encouraging signs with his playmaking. I don't know if we really expected that upon the trade, but I think the way that it's played out since he's become a Raptor has been really encouraging. I think theoretically, you see the fit between him and Scotty and the way that they can play off each other, and it makes so much sense. And so that in itself can, boost his ceiling as a player in terms of just playing with the best fit. beside him in terms of a duo. And so, yeah, I would still put it in sort of that all-star category, which is a great fit. You know, if you think about Scotty and his potential being a superstar, if you can get an all-star next to a superstar, then
you're doing all right.
Something.
You're cooking with gas, as they say. Yeah, I think it just, that combination, obviously Quickly's doing a lot of this without Scotty, and so you need to meld the two versions of those guys that are sort of the peak versions of them together. I think while they didn't quite get there during their time playing together this season, I do think that is something that should be pretty easy to get to next season, considering the way their games complement one another. And so, yeah, I'm feeling pretty great about where things are sitting with Immanuel Quickley, easily my favorite dude to watch on the team right now. And, I'll be part of IQ Hive for as long as it exists. I think it's a pretty fun place to be. One of the small thing I really enjoy, just before we get to break, the Raptors, because Quickley is now on the team, they've moved into the 21st century. A lot of the action for them is between the 3-point line and the half court line, which is just a beautiful change from the basketball we've watched over the last couple of seasons, where it's been like free throw line and in, various big to big passing sequences, trying to get as close to the rim as possible without any 3-point shooting on the floor whatsoever. It's pretty cool to see things expanded out, stretched out, and the sort of effect on the offense that it has. I'm enjoying it quite a lot. Kelly Olnyk setting screens 40 feet from the rim so Quickley can pull up from 33 feet. Pretty awesome. I'm having a great time. We'll come back on the other side. We're going to talk about Chris Boucher, who had himself a game in this one, closed for the Raptors, and seems to be back in the good graces. And hey, Immanuel Quickley helping there a little bit too, as they work some two-man game here and there. We will get to Chris Boucher and talk about him coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little bit further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Class-exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of fiddling, trying to connect your Bluetooth to your phone and your car. It's no more. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Then there's also the 2024 Nissan Armada, which will change what you expect from a full-size SUV. Picture a rugged 4x4 that can seat up to 8 in first-class luxury and style, tow bigger, and explore further in the 2024 Armada. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, and Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Back at it here with Vivek Jacob from Sportsnet, from Raptors in 7, his Substack newsletter, which you should be subscribing to, by the way. Get on it, huh? We're here talking about the Raptors' overtime loss to the Portland Trail Blazers. Look, we could talk about the result and all of that stuff. We'll get to it, I'm sure, as we weave our thoughts throughout this podcast, but we're in the game of individual performances at this point of the season, so bear with us. We're going to talk about Chris Boucher now, who had himself his best game in quite some time. 16 points, 8 boards, 2 assists, 3 blocks, 4 of 5 from the field, 2 of 3 from deep, 6 of 6 from the line, 31 minutes played. He's back, baby. Chris Boucher is back, Big V.
He has been outstanding. I think when you look at, again, these comebacks that have happened against Phoenix, against Portland, the thing that's been missing the most in those first quarters, it's like, hey, man, where's like the intensity? Where's the energy? And that's exactly what Chris Boucher brings to the table. And another thing I've noticed with Quickley is he really seems to enjoy playing alongside Boucher, and he's been very complimentary post game. And so I think that's something to note going forward. I think, for all these, wins and lessons mode that we're in, energy, effort, professionalism, the right disposition in your approach, night in, night out, though, that's an important lesson as well. And so, look, is Chris Boucher going to be a perfect fit in a 0.5 offense where you're thinking, constant movement and, making the right read and all of that? Probably not. But he ticks a lot of the other boxes that a young team should be looking to learn as well. And so I think we've seen that in spades over the course of these 2 games, and the way they kind of closed out that fourth quarter and the plays that he made down the stretch and the tying bucket at the end to force overtime, I think that's a really valuable lesson for the young guys going forward.
Yeah, no doubt. And yeah, I think he's working right now in particular because they've sort of pared down the offense without Scotty and Yak. Like, it's not really the same sort of get into your elbow actions and move and work and sort of go side to side thing anymore. It's very much like, all right, Immanuel Quickley, do some pick and rolls, please. And, Chris Boucher is well suited to that. You're seeing the connection there with Quickley. That's been great to see. Where does Boucher fit in next season as they sort of get back to their roots? We'll see if he's even around next season, I suppose. As Katie Heindel astutely pointed out on Friday, if the idea is to move him eventually, like getting him some run here could help you do that in the summer as well. There's all sorts of benefit to him playing right now. And maybe he just is part of the team next season and he's a reliable 10th man who can kind of give you a bit of a different look, right? Like, I like the idea of instilling Darko's system and playing it across, long stretches of games, but there's also going to be games where, teams are snuffing out your actions. Teams are switching heavily. So those split actions and stuff aren't quite as effective. And you got to go to different looks and different, iterations and try some different stuff out. And knowing that you have other tools in the tool bag is a valuable thing. I'm not saying that next season you come in and Quickley Boucher pick and roll is like a core staple of bench lineups or anything like that, but it's a thing that can be there. And we know Chris Boucher is someone who offers energy, who can, help you if you want to play more of a sort of crash the offensive glass style. If you want to just play huge, I mean, that's like the biggest notable thing about him being on the floor right now is he's tall and long, which notably very few players on this team are right now. And so that's a nice thing as well that he's adding to the mix. And, as it stands right now, he's kind of like the only spry, jumpy forward they have outside of Scotty Barnes. You might as well get him in there to give him some run. Like he's doing much more with his minutes right now than, say, Jordan Nwora is. Offers way more on the defensive end, way more in terms of just like intangibles and in between stuff. And so, yeah, I'm digging Chris Boucher getting some run. I've totally understood why he was not a huge part of the mix going into the deadline, especially because it seemed like he was just about to get moved. All the reporting was that they were looking to find a home for him. They couldn't, and now they seem to be making the best of him being around. And, you still got him for another year after this one. So anything you can sort of set up going into next year that involves Chris Boucher could be a benefit to you as you hope to build out a deep and, multi-talented and diversely skilled roster. So pretty cool stuff. Any other quick Chris Boucher thoughts here, Big V, before we move on to our good, bad, and
That was a very well done. I think one thing that stood out to me was post game after the Suns, and Boucher was asked. Darko was asked about why Boucher hasn't been receiving minutes to this point, and he broke it down simply as far as wanting to get a look at other guys, and kind of knowing what Boucher brings to the table. But I thought what was more telling was saying that he views Boucher exclusively as a 5.
Interesting.
And so with Yak and Kelly, there just wasn't going to be that opportunity. And those spot minutes that Scotty would get at the 5, right? So that appears to be the biggest thing that has opened up minutes for him. And so if you look, towards the summer, Kelly's got an extension. You expect Jakob Poeltl to be healthy. Is there really going to be a role for him then, right? And if he's viewed exclusively as a 5, then I don't think Boucher would want to be in Toronto, right? Because then his path to minutes becomes extremely limited. And so I think he would want a situation where he can get more minutes. He's definitely capable of doing that on another team. And so I think if I look towards the summer, based on what Darko has said about him being exclusively a 5, it looks like we're headed for a bit of a breakup here.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, like, that's kind of been the one position I've never been all that keen on Chris Boucher being, right? Is, he just kind of feels a little bit overmatched physically as a 5. And where he really shines is sort of in rotation as a defender, kind of bearing down on shooters and scaring the daylights out of them with his length and his blocked 3-point shots. And I even recall back in, the season where he was on a crazy season-long heater in Tampa from deep, it was like he's playing like a 2 guard most of the time, just like a really jumpy 2 guard. And, that like center has just never been a thing for me. But that said, I mean, playing next to Kelly Olynyk, you can kind of invert their roles, I suppose, and, or even just have Olynyk be your traditional 4, I guess. And, you have Boucher for that rim protection at the back line. You have him
rebounding.
Dude, the rebounding.
What do you need when Kelly's in the game?
We're going to talk about rebounding coming up in the next segment because that is not so pleasant right now. But yeah, like having some size next to Olynyk, I think is a valuable thing. And I think you could even work some second units where, you could still have Scotty Barnes out there with Olnyk, with Boucher, and some shooting alongside him. Gradey Dick, Gary Trent Jr. if he's around, Immanuel Quickley, even if you want to go 2 starters. Like, there are ways to make it workable with Boucher, quote unquote, as a 5. But yeah, I do wonder if maybe the next, 15, 20 games here is maybe sort of a proving ground for Chris Boucher to say, hey, I could do more than just be the 5. And maybe that plays him into the plans for next season, or maybe he just shows up down the stretch and becomes a guy that a contender wants to pick up at, the draft or something like that too. We'll see. But glad to see Chris Boucher playing one way or another. He's a nice, energetic fellow and brings a lot to this current iteration of the team, certainly considering how bereft of talent and dudes they are. We'll come back on the other side, Big V, round it out with a look at the good, the bad, and the to round out the show. Plus, as I mentioned, a very controversial video review that's not going to reflect well on me, I don't think. We'll get to that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs, baby. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is not just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion with a B professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals that you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. I've been a hiring manager in the past. It's a lot of work. It takes up all of your day. No more time for important stuff like, running your business. And so let LinkedIn make it easier for you. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, rounding things out here with our pal Vivek Jacob from Sportsnet and Raptors in 6, talking about the Raptors. Lost to the Trailblazers in overtime. A game that was super duper fun until the end of regulation, and then, kind of a dud in OT. What are you going to do? I'm actually going to talk about that coming up a little bit in here just a second as well. Before we do that, though, just a heads up, Locked On Sports Today 24/7 is our all-day streaming channel, streaming Locked On shows all throughout the day and night. Covering all your favorite teams from the national perspective and, of course, the local angle that we can only provide here at Locked On. So go check that out. All right, Big V. It's the good. It's the bad. It's the It's the way we round out every episode on the heels of a Toronto Raptors basketball game here on the pod. A thing we liked, a thing we didn't like, and a thing that has us a little bit intrigued from what we just saw. Big V, what's your good from this game?
I'm going to go with the obvious answer, man. Chris Boucher, I thought, was just outstanding. I think his energy, his effort, we've talked about a lot of it, but I think when you look at what was missing in those first quarters from these last 2 games, he was the standout in terms of providing that turnaround. And the first quarter ended against Portland, and I was like, all right, well, let's see what this looks like with Boucher. And obviously they did a bit of the experiment in the starting lineup. And so that's kind of why I was like, okay, I wouldn't write this game off just yet. Also, it's Portland. And then he comes in and he gives you all that energy and effort. And I just think the rebounding that he provides, the hustle on the glass, that in terms of getting putbacks and all of that, I think extra possessions for this team right now when you're missing Scotty and Yak are key as well. So I think for me, he was definitely the good. Quickley is the obvious answer, but
Sure.
I wanted to go with the less obvious one.
I mean, we just talked about him, so I would argue it's pretty obvious as well, but that's fine. Pick the low-hanging fruit, why don't you? My good, before I knock him down, I'm going to build him up. I'm going to say Kelly Olynyk. This might have been his best overall game as a Raptor, just like across the board, very consequential. 15, 6, 8, 2, and 2. Finally got some threes to fall. That's been a sore spot for him since coming to Toronto. 3 of 4 from downtown. And I think I'm just really enjoying the way that he's settling in as a hub for their offense and at least offering some sort of baseline competence to ensure that development can be happening down the stretch for guys like Immanuel Quickley and Gradey Dick in particular, right? Like those guys working off Olnyk has been a lot of fun, and you don't get that if you don't have his passing chops, his ability to kind of tie possessions together. Been enjoying the Kelly Olynyk as the sort of offensive hub. And yeah, really nice game from him overall. Glad the threes were falling. I will go into my bad very quickly here, though. And my bad is that, boy, oh boy, they cannot rebound when Kelly Olynyk is on the floor. And it's a problem. The Raptors have a 44.1% rebound rate with Olnyk on the floor since he came to the Raptors. Yeah, not good. That hissing the sigh sound you just made, pretty apt, I think. They're only collecting 65% of available defensive rebounds when he's out there. So 35% opposing offensive rebound rate in this game against the Blazers. The Blazers grabbed 40% of all available boards off of their misses. Not what you want. You cannot be allowing DeAndre Ayton to look like a good NBA player out there, man. But they did. He was on the glass doing his thing. So yeah, it just you gotta figure out the rebounding. I mean, this is why Scotty Barnes, I think, was so important to those lineups with Olnyk. They didn't rebound very well, but I thought there was a pathway there because Barnes is a pretty prolific rebounder when he's really dialed in on the glass.
And
I think that's going to be and rim protector, of course. That's going to be a thing they have to, I think, sort of pair with Kelly Olynyk is some element of rebounding chops. Chris Boucher, hello, welcome to your most important job. That's where I'm at. The rebounding with Kelly Olynyk on the floor has been a bit of a problem and something to keep an eye on. What was your bad in this game?
I would say Ochai Agbaji's decision making. I think for me, hey, I'm an Indian immigrant, so I am going to, if I like you, I'm going to grade you the hardest too. And so, when I look at his above the break threes, when I see him, trying to do things off the bounce, those are the things I'm going to view the hardest because I think those should only be happening in extreme circumstances. If it's an above the break three, there better be 2 or 3 on the shot clock. If you're trying to make something happen off the bounce, again, it better be a late clock situation or, the offense looks extremely stagnant and no one's doing anything for a few possessions, and it's okay, I got to try and make something happen, those are his 2 biggest weaknesses for me. And I think that's something I get, him viewing this maybe as a chance to be hey, this is, time for me to now work on it in game and, maybe build up some film and see how I can work on that in the summer. I can definitely see that perspective of it. But I still think, in terms of making the right impression on this team, you should probably still be in just make the right play mode, whether you're starting, whether you're coming off the bench, whatever it may be. And again, if he's starting alongside a Scotty and a Yak, he probably cuts down on that stuff more, right? And it's okay, I don't need to do any of this. And he probably, now because of the circumstances, he's okay, maybe there is a window for me to do more of this stuff. But at the end of the day, when I looked at his decision making in this one, especially early, I thought, there was just way too much on the clock for him to make some of the decisions that he did.
My bonus bad, by the way, this is just another sort of notch for me in my extremely correct argument that NBA overtime is the worst thing in basketball. It sucks. It's bad. And we should be switching to the Elam ending for overtime immediately, because no one needs 5 minutes of drawn out garbage ball after a thrilling, exciting finish to regulation. Overtime never lives up to the finish that you get in regulation. And if you had Elam ending where it finishes on a bucket no matter what, just play to 11 like it's pickup. It's not that hard to me. These guys will do it quickly. You're not going to be sitting there for 20 minutes waiting for them to score. We're in the offense era, man. Play to 11 for overtime. I just wanted to use that opportunity to spew more thoughts on the thing I think would fix the NBA the most of anything that has been kicked around as far as rule changes or whatever. Elam ending overtime. Let's go. Let's get to the what you got for your Big V.
So the Raptors decided to go with Gradey Dick in the starting lineup. And, I think we see, obviously I'm not going to extend this out too much, which is why I have it as a but in bringing JFL to start the second half, I think they saw that they needed, someone more astute defensively, especially on ball. And I think they addressed that, and that's part of why they were able to make more of a comeback in that third quarter. And I think just extending out and being a it's like, hey, when you look at RJ Barrett as an on-ball defender, when you look at Gradey Dick as an on-ball defender, thinking about this core of what fits in best next to Quickley and Scotty, that's something that I think it needs to be looked at very, very seriously, right? Part of why I like Ochai is because of what he presents as an on-ball defender. Sure. And so I think that piece of the puzzle is going to weigh significantly for me moving forward. And so just seeing a little bit of that experiment, hey, what does it look like with Gradey Dick in the starting lineup? Okay, the defense wasn't really there. You look at the way Simons was able to get off a shot pretty much anytime he wanted. You look at the way that they were scoring at will in that first quarter, especially, with Kelly being the 5. They were just way too they were compromised as it is with Scotty and Yak out. And I think with Gary, Gradey, Olnyk, it was just asking way too much, right? And so I think getting JFL to start that second half gave them a bit of a lift that they needed. And I think that's something that's going to be interesting to watch, not just for the remainder of the season, but as this core continues to progress and questions continue to get asked of what's the best long-term solution.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of wild how this roster went from all wings, no guards, no bigs to all guards and bigs, no wings. And I think for me, I've not started to dive into draft stuff yet, but I think my sort of prevailing takeaway going into the draft is use every pick you have on 6'8", 6'9" wings.
We're back, baby.
You need to fill in this roster with those exact types of players. It just is the reality of the modern NBA. And you need to be taking swings to try to get guys who can be 3-and-D dudes for you. It's like watching the Pelicans last week really drove it home. It's like, oh yeah, Trey Jones, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, Najee Marshall. They're just huge, enormous everywhere. And wings are valuable. Wings are important. Wings are desperately needed on this team right now. So yeah, I think that's a great My is Gradey Dick's passing. Just 2 assists in this game. He's not been racking them up, but he had a couple of secondary assists in this game, couple of potential assists that didn't get converted. And I think once this team kind of gets humming, he, comes into his own as he moves further into his career. I think he's going to be the kind of guy who just kind of walks into 3, 4, 5 assists a night, just because he's always making the right play. He's always making the connective pass. And those are going to lead to buckets a lot of the time. So, just smart, no turnovers in this game, just making smart reads, smart passes on the move. I'm pretty in on Gradey Dick's passing. That's my from this game. And that is going to bring us to the end of the show. Big V, do you have anything you want to promote for the good people out there who we love dearly?
Well, before I promote, we very briefly mentioned JFL starting the second half. I think it is important that we note that he's been a positive contributor and
I'm JFL Hive, man. He's good. He's good. He's a guy.
Yeah.
Or might be. I don't know. It's March. Who knows?
Yeah. I've enjoyed watching him get minutes, and I think he's been a positive contributor, really energetic on the defensive end, and it seems to know where to be, and that's always a positive sign. So just shout out to him. And then beyond that, in terms of my work, I'm always doing general NBA stuff at Sportsnet, and my next piece will be just looking at the teams that you can expect to rise over this final month of the season and be peaking at the right time for the playoffs, and the teams that will be maybe in a bit of a tailspin as we head down the stretch here. That's what you can look forward to at Sportsnet. Over at my Substack, Raptors in 7, I'm probably going to go all in on Chris Boucher because he is the hot topic of the last few games, and I think he deserves a shout out, and actually more than a shout out, which is why it'll be a piece. And usual stuff at Cricket Canada. Cricket Canada, they had a tour of the UAE and came away 4-0, and now they've got a bit of a break. So I will be doing some features on the players where you can get to know them better, so you can look forward to that, and you can follow it all on Twitter at Vivek Jacob.
Everyone go and do that. Big V is the very best. Before we round out the show, of course, subscribe, follow, rate, review, tell a friend, etc., etc., etc. We need to address what happened on Friday's podcast. For the audio listeners of the podcast, you may not know, since I moved into my new house just over a month ago, my sort of office setup has me with a little basketball rim pretty close behind my head here. I would say it's probably about a 5-foot shot. It's not super far. And I've been trying like hell to connect on this shot over the head as the sign off of the podcast. Think, Michael Scott, catch you on the flippity flip, if you will. It's been a rough go. I've, missed right. I've missed left. I've missed right. I've missed left. I've missed right and left 1,000 times. It's been really hard getting the line. It's like Fred VanVleet shooting slump at the start of last season. On Friday, I thought I hit the shot. I was thrilled. If you watched on Friday, you saw me, act in the manner befitting of the Muppet Show. I was thrilled, elated. Katie Heindel also totally thought it went in. Upon further review, seems like less of a sure thing. I'm going to play a video clip. Sorry for the audio listeners, but there's some sound cues in here that might gear you up and kind of fill you in as to what's happening. Here we go. Let's take a look at the tape. And we need Bill Kennedy, I guess, ready to sort of offer the full sort of an evaluation of the decision upon video review. Here we go. Katie, I'm hitting the shot this time. I hit the shot! Yeah! Air. Air. I don't know. I'm despondent. I'm gonna try a shot again here in 2 seconds, but
yeah, man, you gotta keep
my confidence has been shaken.
No, bro, you gotta stay positive. You gotta think about the process, right? Think about all the shots that you can make going forward, and think about Pascal Siakam at a stretch where he was like 0 for 30 from 3.
It's true.
And he just kept at it.
Inching dangerously close to that.
Yeah. So you just got to keep at it.
Well, let's see. I'm keeping at it. Let's see if I can redeem myself to close out today's show. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. You're all the very, very best. We'll talk to you again. Not tomorrow, just a heads up. No Tuesday episode. I have an appointment, and the schedule is going to be weird, so I'm not going to be able to make the pod tomorrow. But back Wednesday, probably talk about the Nuggets game before they take their talents to Detroit on Wednesday night. But in the meantime, thank you so much for hanging out, and let's go. Let's see if I can. I'm not feeling good about this shot. I know shooters shoot. I feel like shooters should pass in this case, but here we go.
I believe in you, Sean.
Rim. Hey, I got rim.
Rim. It'll happen.
I hit backboard. It wasn't air this time.
It'll happen.
Get it sometime.
It'll happen.
Get it. All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye.